Hello and welcome. And once again, thank you very much for joining me in my Katiba reflections. Today, I want to reflect on the first three chapters of the Constitution of Kenya 2010. The importance of these chapters, in my view, is that they're brief, but they lay out or bring out the theoretical and conceptual basis on which the substantive document called the Constitution is based on. So I believe it's very important for anybody who seeks to understand and interrogate the Constitution of Kenya 2010 to begin by internalizing the provisions of the first three chapters of that Constitution. The first chapter of the Constitution deals with the sovereignty of the people and the supremacy of the Constitution. The second chapter deals with the Republic, and the third chapter deals with citizenship. And as we reflect on these three chapters, I think it's important also to remember the preamble to the Constitution, and particularly that in the preamble, we the people state that we recognize the aspirations of all Kenyans for a government based on the essential values of human rights, equality, freedom, democracy, social justice, and the rule of law. And that the making of this constitution is we, the people of Kenya, exercising, in the words of the preamble, exercising our sovereign and inalienable right to determine the form of governance of our country. And of course, that the people of Kenya fully participated in the making of their own constitution. So, when we begin to look at the first chapter of the Constitution, the sovereignty of the people and the supremacy of the Constitution, it's very important to appreciate that the people of Kenya begin by declaring that all sovereign power belongs to we, the people of Kenya, and that sovereign power will only be exercised in accordance with this constitution. Now, the constitution goes on in the first chapter, indeed, in the first article, to state that the people of Kenya will exercise their sovereignty either directly or through the democratically elected representatives. Now, if we pause there for 1 minute, the part about the democratically elected representatives, I think, is fairly straightforward. The people, as provided for later in the same constitution, periodically make their choices in elections at both levels of government, in respect of representatives at the national level and in respect of representatives at the county government level. And so those representatives act on the basis of the sovereignty that they do so on behalf of the people. Now, the people also reserve the right to exercise their sovereignty directly. And this has sometimes been the subject of debate. What does it mean for the people to exercise their rights directly? Let me say that in my view and understanding, it does not mean that every Kenyan or every group of Kenyans, when they're dissatisfied with the representatives exercising that sovereignty on their behalf, that they can then just choose to step into those shoes and carry out the exercise their sovereignty. No, my understanding is that that means that the people using the processes and the institutions that they themselves provide for in the election, they themselves provide for in the Constitution, can and do exercise their sovereignty directly in that way, namely by, for example, the main way that the sovereignty of the people is exercised directly is when the people go to the polls to elect those representatives. And when the people do so, then they do so, and the effect is that they can or they do transfer and give that delegated authority to the people that they elect. There are other ways that the people exercise their sovereignty, for example, petitioning Parliament, provisions for the recall of elected officials. All those are ways that, in terms of Article 1 of the Constitution, the people that the people exercise their sovereignty directly. But much of the time, the people exercise the sovereignty through the state organs that they delegate to, so that, as provided for in the Constitution, the people delegate legislative authority to at the national level to members of Parliament, both houses. They delegate the judicial authority to the judiciary and the independent tribunals, and of course they delegate the executive authority to the executives at both levels of government, that is, at the national government executive and the executives at the county levels. Now, Article 2 of the Constitution declares in very clear terms that the Constitution is the supreme law of the Republic, and that it binds all persons and all state organs at both levels of government. And nobody may exercise state authority except as is authorized by the Constitution. Nobody there means nobody, because everybody, every public officer or state officer, every state organ, all of them are creatures of the Constitution, and they exercise authority only on the basis that the Constitution allows. And this first chapter at Article 3 provides a very important it's a very important declaration, because Article 3 of the Constitution imposes on every person an obligation to respect, to uphold, and to defend the Constitution. This is very important. Of course, for the people of Kenya to be able to carry out that obligation that they have under Article 3, it's very important, as I said in a previous reflection, that the people are empowered through civic education so that they are able to respect, uphold, and defend that which they understand. So it's very important that as a people, we ensure that we empower ourselves, all Kenyans, as best as we can, to be able to carry out our obligation under Article 3. Chapter 2 of the 2010 Constitution is about the Republic, and it's Article 4 that declares that the Republic of Kenya shall be a multi-party democratic state founded on the national values and principles of governance that are referred to in Article 10. Now, this is very important because, as I say, it provides the theoretical and conceptual basis on which the people have put together this constitution of theirs. So, and we will look at Article 10 in a moment, but basically the values, the national values and principles of governance that are set out there are the very basis of the Constitution in its entirety. Chapter 2, Article 6 is also very important because this introduces the devolution, the devolved system of government, by declaring that the country is divided into counties that are specified in the first schedule to the Constitution. I think for a long time there will be a lot of debate about the nature of these counties. Indeed, in recent times there has been talk of certain people in parts of the country who feel that their interests are not served to their expectation within the counties that they find themselves in, and therefore you begin to hear suggestions and discussions about perhaps increasing or dividing the counties further so that you have more counties. I do not share that view. I am not sure that that really would be the solution. I think where there have been limitations or where we have fallen short in terms of the counties delivering on the intended mandate, I think we need to look elsewhere and ask ourselves, how can we ensure, for example, if you take County X, that all the services that are expected to be delivered to the people are so delivered, and I think, and that the people are well represented. I think the solution lies in looking at how the counties are funded, how the people in the counties are represented at the county level, and again, Is there a system of monitoring to ensure the people are receiving services on the basis of equality and equity? I think therein lies the solution, as opposed to the talk about increasing the number of counties. But that's my view, and it's just one of the different views that people have as we continue to evaluate whether the Constitution is fully working for the people of Kenya as envisaged. But the important thing is that the counties are there, those created by the Constitution are 47, and the Constitution provides in Article 6, and this is very important, that the county governments at the national and county levels are distinct. They're distinct governments. So you actually have 48 governments. That is the one national government and the 47 county governments. They are distinct, but the Constitution goes further to say that they are interdependent and they shall conduct their mutual relations on the basis of consultation and cooperation. So devolution works where there is a respect for the distinct character of each of the 48 governments, but at the same time, a recognition that the contemplation is that they will work in a manner that is interdependent and that they will consult and cooperate. The national government, under the same Article 6, has a responsibility, notwithstanding the existence of the county governments. The national government has a responsibility that where it has functions that it has to deliver to the people, it must deliver these functions in a manner that gives access to all services to the people everywhere in all parts of the Republic of Kenya, insofar as it is appropriate, having regard to the nature of the service. Article 7 of the Constitution, in terms, again, of the underlying conceptual basis of the Constitution of Kenya, Article 7 is important because it provides for Kiswahili as being the national language of Kenya, but also as one of, together with English, the official languages of Kenya. Now, this is important insofar as it plays a role to enable and facilitate the people of Kenya at all levels to be able to effectively participate in their own governance, because language is important, and that language plus the civic education that I have talked about will, in my view, be important to ensure that the people of Kenya are well equipped to participate in their governance And when we look back at Article 3, to be able to carry out the obligation to respect, uphold, and defend the Constitution and the laws, of course, and in this regard, to hold each other to account. Now, in the same chapter 2 is where Article 10 of the Constitution falls. Now, for me, Article 10 is one of, if not the most important article in the Constitution. This is because this is where the Constitution sets out the national values and principles of governance that we have referred to. And the Constitution states that these national values and principles of governance bind all state organs, all state officers, public officers, and all persons in the context of applying or interpreting the Constitution. Secondly, enacting, applying, or interpreting any law. And thirdly, in the making or implementing public policy decisions. The national values and principles themselves are set out, and it's worth looking at them. Patriotism, national unity, sharing and devolution of power, the rule of law, democracy, and participation of the people. Also, human dignity, equity, social justice, inclusiveness, equality, human rights, non-discrimination, and protection of the marginalized. And good governance, integrity, transparency, and accountability, as well as sustainable development. These are the values and the principles on which our system of governance and therefore this Constitution, in a very practical sense, because as I said, that this applies whenever the Constitution or any law or the carrying out of any public policy are based on. So anybody who is on either those who are part of governing the people, as well as the people themselves in their dealings with one another, are expected to carry out those dealings and that governance in accordance with the provisions of Article 10, the national values and principles of governance. Moving on to Chapter 3 of the Constitution, Chapter 3 deals with citizenship. And it sets out the forms of citizenship. There is the citizenship by birth, which is provided for. There is citizenship by registration under certain conditions. The latter, of course, again, under certain conditions, may be revoked. The interpretation of the provision relating to citizenship by birth is that this may not be lost. Logically, of course, if one chooses to revoke their citizenship by birth, one is able to do that. But the state itself cannot revoke the citizenship of a Kenyan who is a citizen by birth. So in summarizing or concluding today's reflection on the first three chapters of the Constitution, as I said at the onset, the first three chapters provide a theoretical and conceptual basis on which the people of Kenya give themselves this constitution, and therefore, on that basis, the remaining substantive provisions in the constitution, which we intend to look at in the days ahead. So, as I said, they declare their sovereignty, and this sovereignty may be delegated, as indeed it is in this constitution, to various organs and various state officials. The people also declare the supremacy of the constitution, being the sovereign will of the people of Kenya. Therefore, the constitution is supreme above everything else, and very clearly nobody can exercise any level of state power unless it is authorized by the constitution. In terms of how the people wish to be governed, they declare clearly the nature and character of the multi-party democratic republic, and they declare the introduction of the system of devolved government and how the two levels of government will operate. Very importantly, and I can never tire in emphasizing the significance of Article 10 of the Constitution on national values and principles. And then in Chapter 3, because this constitution is owned collectively by the people of Kenya. So it's important to state who are these people, the citizens of Kenya, who own this constitution, who claim the collective sovereignty, and who choose who governs them. And as we continue to look at the constitution, as I said before, is really the basis of the contract between these people, the citizens, between themselves and between those whom they choose to govern them, those whom they delegate the exercise of their sovereignty. So going forward, I believe now we can start looking at the substantive provisions of the 2010 Constitution, and this is what I look forward to doing in the days ahead. And I hope and trust that you will continue to join me in these reflections. For now, I thank you very much. Asanteni.